It all started in 1990 when Saddam Hussein invaded Kuwait and started the Gulf War. This led to a massive international effort to remove Iraqi forces from Kuwait, known as Operation Desert Storm. The way Americans saw themselves had drastically changed. Now they saw it as their duty to intervene in any and all foreign conflict.
After all that, Saddam Hussein must be pissing his pants. But there was one man angrier than anyone else, the son of a rich Saudi. His name? Osama bin Laden. You know, the reason why Osama became so furious is because he did not like the presence of non-Muslim soldiers in the Arabian Peninsula. He also believed that there was an affront to Allah to have non-Muslim soldiers near the holy cities of Islam.
Do you think the US has some responsibility for what happened on the 11th of September because of their involvement in the Gulf?
Well, obviously not at all. We were there to secure global oil supply and protect the freedom of Kuwait. It's dangerous to suggest otherwise. Now, if you were to ask that question in my department in the US government, you'd get thrown out. Possibly even in jail.
I also asked this question to our American colleague. Do you think the US has some responsibility for what happened on the 11th of September because of their involvement in the Gulf?
It was obviously not the fault of the civilians killed, but President Bush should have taken some responsibility for involving himself in places he shouldn't be. Also, I'd like to add that the UN sanctions killed thousands of Iraqi children due to missing medical equipment. So, the US is not the only one at fault there, but the UN is as well. I remember it was like the whole world was against the Iraqis.
What was the impact of 9/11 and the war on terror on US culture?
The 9/11 terrorist attacks were a terrible tragedy that made clear the threat of Muslim extremist terrorism. President Bush saw the threat posed by the potential weapons of mass destruction, also known as WMDs in Iraq, and took action, launching the second coalition invasion of Iraq. Fortunately, some of our allies were less willing to join.
Luckily for the Iraqis, the UN were in doubt of the US invasion. They did not encourage it, but neither did they try to stop it. Which I really think is a shame, because it's the UN after all, the United Nations. Everyone should agree on something before some country does something stupid, like invading Iraq for example. But the invasion would end up as a massive failure. The US liquidated the Iraqi army. Remnants of the said army would end up forming the terrorist group known as ISIS. And the US would just stay in Iraqi and cause more and more terrorism.
What was the impact of 9/11 and the war on terror on US culture?
After the attacks, there was a conservative pushback in the US. Our culture and way of life were under attack. In the face of that, we were proud. Screw you, Bin Laden. I'm proud to be an American.
Of course, it was a very bad situation for the US government, considering that many Americans became disillusioned and started to turn against the government. One reason why they started to invade so many countries after 9/11 was so that could try and get the population's trust again.
What was the impact of 9/11 and the war on terror on Middle Eastern culture?
I don't really know. To be honest, I don't really care either, since I am an American, after all. But if I had to say, I'd say that the intervention has unfortunately caused widespread resentment to the West among the Arab peoples.
When you invade a country, it's very rare that they end up liking you. This war on terror and the US continued support on Israel has ruined the American reputation in the Muslim world. Bush deserved that shoe thrown at him.